Hi, I'm Scarlett Burke. You just listened to a snippet of the song that I wrote with Miranda Lambert called Champion, which she originally performed on my podcast, Make It Up As We Go. Today, I'm going to take you through my adventure in creating this incredible project and all the people who helped me bring it to life. First up is award-winning songwriter Nicolle Galyon. Nicolle was the first person that Jared and I connected with when we were putting this together because we wanted to have a real Nashville hitmaker help shape the musical identity. Here's a taste of how things went down when we first started production.
Oh, hi, Nicolle. Hi, Scarlett.
Hi.
This project came together way before we even had scripts. And the first thing that, Scarlett and I discussed when she came back from Nashville with the first batch of songs was, we really want to get the authentic Nashville cosign into this thing so that people, really understand that, this is a project that resonates with the town. And, this has a writer involved who's written for some big names. And I remember the first conversation we had with Sloan, she said, you have to talk to Nicolle. And it wasn't like, talk to these three people. She just said, talk to Nicolle. So, what happened behind the scenes there? Did Sloan give you any heads up that these two people would be entering your life?
No, you guys know this, I think. I have a word for every year of my life, and it's like my theme. And my word for last year was champion. And part of that meant just expanding my territory, and mainly in my career outside of the writing room, and I didn't know what that looked like, but I had shared that with Sloan. And then I just said, please share anything that comes across your desk that, I might come to mind on. And there were a few things that came up, and I was like, that doesn't feel genuine or authentic for me. And she sent me the deck for your project. And truth be told, I kind of marked it as unread, and it just kind of kept moving down my inbox because it was a lot of materials, and I needed some peace and quiet to really look at it. And so quite a bit of time went by and I didn't really respond. I'm sorry. But then I think I was on a trip. And I was by myself in a hotel room, and I was just like, I'm just going to go really knock out some emails. And I found it again. And that's when I got on the phone with Sloan, and I was like, let's talk about this because I really like this. And we immediately got on the phone. I remember being in that hotel room talking to you on the phone, Jared. And I'm just so glad that I'm not so flaky that I didn't finish reading that email, because I remember when I read it, I just thought, well, if I'm not going to do this, who is? This is so my life already. And it felt like, from my end, it felt like kind of like an answer to an invitation for me to champion something.
Yeah. And just timeline wise, it's often in this project, I would get a call about something and immediately call Scarlett and go, you won't believe it. This crazy thing happened. I was like, this person who's written all these big, she's going to call you and talk about the project. And she's like, yeah, I know who Nicolle is. So I guess, Scarlett, what happened next? So it went from phone tag. She called me and then she's like, okay, I want to speak to the person who's actually, this is revolving around. And then you guys connected.
We connected at I was actually on my way back from Ojai writing the Taco Bell song, and spoke with Nicolle. And I was honestly, Nicolle, I was pretty intimidated to speak with you on the phone. And because it was you probably, didn't know much of our background. And here we are, these two kind of jingle writers in LA wanting to do this whole project. And so whenever we spoke, it felt so natural. It felt like a fit. It felt like, I think Nashville, and one of the great things about Nashville is that it likes to keep its traditions. And then there's this other part of Nashville that is evolving into, new ways of releasing music, such as this project. And I felt like you got it. You knew what this was, you knew what to do with it, and you knew what you could bring to the table, not just as far as your songwriting goes, but as far as being that bridge between us, LA folks into the Nashville world. And so, we spoke briefly about the project, and I didn't really want to get too detailed about here's what the songs are going to be about. And we kept it very broad of okay, we need a song that kind of fits this and kind of fits that. And then, it just wrote itself kind of naturally in the room.
Well, in the room was kind of, I've had two types of experiences with these types of like setups, where it's a very specific person, not just like a casual day of like, oh, we're writing today. I've had instances where I've written with people like you where the song like didn't have anything to do with my world until 5 years later, or, knowing, oh my God, we're going in here like Navy SEALs, these work things that must work. So, in terms of like entering into the room that day, I knew that I felt a tremendous amount of like pressure to get like lots of stuff done. And we ended up focusing really on two things. I mean, how was that for both of you? Were you nervous that we were going to, Scarlett, fly all the way down there and maybe leave empty handed? And Nicolle, did that even that we would write anything with intention or purpose that day?
I mean, I always have like low grade anxiety, like a very, very low level going into any write. Like I'm about to go write with an artist right after this. And I wake up every day that I go into a write and think, I don't know what's going to happen. But I don't know. I think the longer I've done this, the more I have confidence that what's meant to be will be in the room. And I don't know. I didn't feel nervous. I actually have a lot of luck with first time collaborations. I think there's something intangible that happens when people are a little bit on their heels and don't really know, because I think your senses are heightened. And therefore I think you just write something. A lot of times you create something very special that you can't recreate maybe the 4th or 10th time you collaborate with those people. When I look back on, there's a lot of songs for me that are really special that were first time collabs. So going into writing with you guys that day, I'm sure I had confidence and some excitement that this could be one of those days. And it was.
Yeah. I had absolute confidence because you had just won Song of the Year. So I was like,
you thought she was going to cancel.
Yeah, I was confident. I don't know.
Yeah, I knew we definitely weren't going to be leaving empty handed. I mean, God, I just seen you like when do the acceptance speech and whatnot. And I was like, I think we'll be fine. Like, no, but I didn't really know how many songs we were going to come out with. And my worry was that we were going to try to focus on, I mean, I knew this wasn't going to happen, but I know in the past with some of the, like my trips to Nashville, I think I've made a mistake where I've focused on like quantity of songs to come home with over quality. And so that was something I really wanted to make sure that, didn't happen, which, like was perfect. I mean, Champion, it was kind of like, we really let it just breathe and so and it worked.
But we got off to a bit of in a misdirect. I could see that like the faster song, Scarlett, the way that your songs typically roll out are more of the finger picking, mid and slow tempo. Yeah. And I could see, I also freak the hell out of people because I come in with all this, and it was a bit of a circus that day. We were like, we're doing the project and Bobby's involved. And guess what? Bobby's team is coming by and they've never heard of the project. And, it was, and by the way, we have a video camera and it's a lot. And I've had that effect on a lot of people where people in the room go, Jared's doing all these things. And then they're also looking to me going, what are we actually here for? And then I looked over to Scarlett and I was like, oh, I thought working out was sounding really great. And she pulled me aside and was like, we need to figure out another song because that song's amazing, but that's not the song that we came here to. We didn't get, we came here to get the My Heart Will Go On big, anthemic moment.
I think that, I mean, you asked about confidence or going into that day specifically, feeling that pressure. You guys had flown in. We had a few hours in a studio at a hotel. It's like there's a lot of things. This isn't just like, around a campfire in someone's backyard and a song falls out when it happens. But it's very helpful for me to know that there is a target. And I felt like that was in some ways what was easier. I didn't know what writing for a project like this would be like, but in some ways it was easier because it eliminated a lot of stuff that we couldn't write about.
Yeah.
And normally when I go into my day job, it's like today I have no parameters. Tempo, low, like this lifestyle breakup, do we want to write it to pitch? Do we want to write it for the artist? Like this was such a pointed target that I had a lot of confidence of like, I at least know what we're aiming at.
Right.
But most of the time, the songwriter, you know, the blue collar Nashville songwriter is just like, gets up to bat and swings kind of blindly. Like, I hope we hit something.
Yeah. No, it did feel like writing for like a sync pitch, like a film or TV pitch. And obviously like, there was so much more heart behind it because, you know, we created the thing, but.
Well, and also you know, the easiest writes for my job are when you write with an artist that knows who they are. And I think you guys knew what the project was.
Right.
So it really wasn't just like getting up to swing. It was like, okay, you already had enough of the arc of the storyline, enough of the other music to go, okay, this is what we're missing. And this is what we're going towards. So and that's exactly what I wanted out of the process for myself, was the challenge of that, of getting to be a part of writing for something very specific that was new to me.
Once the finger picking started and, you know, Here's to Nowhere, Arizona, I honestly, if you look at the camera and the tape of that day, my pressure probably drops down to like a normal rate. Cause I was like, oh, here, like I've seen it. Like now the song started. Now it's about coaching more than anything, you know, getting it. I was just like counting the minutes to like, till you would demo it in the booth. Cause I knew that like, you know, and I do it all, you know, like once those melodies were there, I was like, the song's done. Now we just have to write it.
I truly think that once you have a first line and a title of a song, you're like halfway there.
It's so crazy that Champion is like your word of the year. Cause like, even just like what happened even after that thing where, you know, it's like, oh, these two people came in from LA and they're writing, and, you know, the Winston House sessions and the iHeart stuff that we did, like seeing the song, like take a life from, you know, songwriters, we write songs all day to the point where I'm sure we can barely remember the ones we've done in the last, like, you know, 30 weeks, but it was so cool seeing the specificity of that, like writing for a moment, writing with the attention. And when you both performed it for the first time, Working Out and Champion at Winston House, I was like, it's alive, like Frankenstein. I was like, it's real. And then I could start seeing what artists would theoretically be in that.
Well, I mean, that's the craziest thing about songwriting. The magic of it in general is, you know, you create something that's tangible, that is living and breathing. You walk in with nothing, you make it up as you go. And truly, it's like you have a living, breathing thing that, and I think like it was so cool with this too, because you were really letting one of my favorite things about it was you were building a story around the music. You had your body of work, Scarlett, that you had already made, and then you use that as the muse for the whole project, as opposed to usually it's the other way around, where you create a story and then people are trying to kind of like back the songs into the project. And it was really cool how it was so music forward. I thought that was, because I think that's great songwriting, is if you can tell a story without actually having to say anything. And you already had that in place with the songs that you had written. So
thank you. It was a lot to do with David as well. He heard the music and was like, I get it. And you know, it's those songs I truly never thought anybody would hear. Like this, like My Dove, I wrote in my bedroom and didn't have any plans to do anything with it. But I mean, that's what I like about the you know, this project is, and what I've explained about this project is that these songs are characters themselves, and there is so much life imitating art here, because, you know, we talked about keeping it authentic to the reality of songwriting in Nashville, and that those songs are characters, and they do have kind of their own journey from the writing room, or even like what went on in the songwriter's day, and then to the writing room, and then around town, and then to the artists. And so, you know, I think with Champion, it's funny because it just is life. It's just life imitating art, and that's what we needed.
Scarlett, at what point did you say to yourself, you know, what artist, you know, you thought was going to cut either song? Because that last part of the journey was kind of incredible. And Sloan, big shout out to Sloan, was a huge part of, helping us rein in that like casting process.
I knew who I wanted, like immediately in the room. I wanted Miranda. The song to me reminded me of House That Built Me. And then it just felt like Miranda. That's who I wanted, but I certainly didn't think that, no offense to our project, but I just thought it was just a long shot, and that's just who I wanted for it. And I still can't believe that, like, the way it all played out. And again, that's with thanks to Nicolle and Sloan, but the word champion is just so fitting to this project because there's so many, even you, Nicolle, like, and Miranda and all the talent attached to this. They could have easily said, it's a podcast, no thanks. And I think that there's been so many champions a part of this project, and it wouldn't have happened without all of those people, and especially Miranda. So that's who I wanted from you. I think we talked about that in the room too, Nicolle.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was probably of the same mindset of like, of course, Miranda's the obvious. It was such an obvious choice creatively for the song. Like, it just made sense creatively, but also, I personally, that's my story. Is my first 2 hits on radio were with Miranda, and her, like, she really, speaking of life art imitating life. I mean, it truly very woven together, all of this for me. And that was, I didn't want to make it about me, but in the back of my mind, I was like, man, that would feel so special if this could kind of be recreated again and told in a way to where people could really understand how this works and how it can change a songwriter's life like mine when an artist does come along and champions your song. Because it's not just about that song. When an artist like Miranda or Lindsay L or insert any huge artist comes along and they cut your song, you don't just get the cut, you get the validation, and the whole town and community sees that artist has signed off on you as a writer and your creations. And it really just opens so many more doors. And I'm sure it is for you right now, Scarlett, even with other things, you're like, the artist cutting your song kind of does the talk. You don't have to talk about it anymore. You can just show the world, like, this is.
She's 6 months away from not returning our phone calls.
Yes. Nice knowing you.
Maybe not yours, Jared, but I'll answer.
Well, to be honest, like, the whole thing, the payoff of the narrative is so like layered, and that's the specificity of, like, it's about the writers of Nashville, this show. And, to actually in real life, Scarlett get the call that you got, I don't know why people call me first, and I got the call about Miranda, and I'm like, now I got to deliver this like life-changing news to Scarlett. She's not going to believe me. I need to call 2 other people to make sure it's true. But like, when we found out that Miranda was cutting it, even I, like, look, I've gotten to work with a ton of people. That feeling never goes away because it also validates the work that you put in to get to that point. And you're like, wow, somebody actually likes something I did. And not only that, but Scarlett, your introduction to the town is some incredible names. It's like Tyler Rich alone is great. Lindsay L alone is great. Miranda, that's the home run. And then the icing on the cake is now you're working with another one of Nicolle's artists, Haley Witters, just as like an extra bonus to end 2020. Do you talk about that for a second?
I feel like this year I've had my head down and focused on work. And then it's kind of, I feel like right now I'm kind of like taking the blinders off and seeing it all from the, 1,000-foot view. And us being able to make this project this year, whenever everything was so uncertain, this has been so rewarding and so fulfilling. And, being in like the pandemic and, I lived by myself, like, I don't know what I would have done without having this project. And as far as, working with these amazing artists and you guys, it just feels like we did the work and it just fell kind of into place naturally. So, oh no, my dog's gonna go nuts.
It's okay. We like Charlie.
but yeah, it's even with like the Christmas song with Haley, that was one as we were writing it, Jared, I was like, oh, this would be perfect for Haley. This would be perfect for her. And I'd been following her career and her music. And then of course, you know, the song that you wrote with her, Heartland, is on repeat in my house. And so it's just sort of like, I feel like you kind of, what I like about this project the most is that it shows the relationship between artist and songwriter and what that looks like and how, hey.
He's not bothering us.
No, it's fine. It makes it just make them more country, right?
Yeah.
On brand.
Charlie, stop. Okay.
He's huge.
No. I think he's done. Charlie, stop. Anyway, so no, I think that like there's just you hear the artist in the song once you start writing it in that first verse, and it's like I just can't. We've just been so lucky actually attaching those artists. So
well, so you know, I know that we are coming to the end of this conversation, but Scarlett and Nicolle season 2, what's gonna happen? Scarlett, you go first.
Who's getting pregnant? The story of my career. Just keep getting pregnant. More songs, more babies.
I don't know. I kind of feel like it's weird because I kind of feel like I'm living like what season 2 might hopefully will do. I mean, I don't want to get pregnant, but Charlie, stop. I don't know. I just don't know. I feel like I'm kind of living that out right now and wanting to again keep the authenticity up. I'm sure Nicolle, you and I will have a lot of conversations coming up discussing, you know, what season 2 looks like, because at this point in my career, I can't tell you. I don't know what that looks like just yet for Scarlett. But
well, sometimes you have to quit writing. I always say, like, sometimes you have to take time off of writing to go live, so you have something to write about. And that's probably the same with the podcast too. Like you and your life has been the muse for the music and the story for this. So you need to go. You're living it right now, and I think that's so cool.
Yeah,
Are we writing in a pandemic? I mean, what rhymes with COVID? You know,
probably. I mean, it would be again. It's like going back to that authenticity. Yeah, I think there's some of that in season 2. You know, I mean, artists have been, unfortunately, you know, they've all been so impacted by it and have really had to get creative with releasing their music and maybe.
That's been the most exciting part about this, is that we never could have predicted that this would have been a dynamic way that people could put out music in a year. Like Scarlett, you've managed to, I know that you're very humble about it, but you've managed to break through in a town that's very hard to break through in. As Nicolle will tell you, and, I sort of sneak my way into Nashville every now and then, but I'm not really part of that world. But, you really, by writing your own story, which is, kind of how a lot of these outlier talents like the Billy Bob Thorntons of the world, the Stapletons of the world, they're there, and then they become there in a new way. Like you were already on a path and being successful as a commercial writer, but I just think that this is such an incredible example of creating your own story, creating a new dynamic way that people discover stuff. And I'm just happy that I'm like Ringo Starr. I'm just happy that I got to go along for the ride. It was incredible. And, seeing this all come to life from the writing room there as a tourist and someone who was involved in producing it, congrats on the amazing year, both of you. And let's do it again in 21 without any of the global pandemics and the rest of that bullshit.
Right back at you. It's been awesome this whole year. It's been great. It's been like a B12 shot.
And I want to say one more thing. Howdy Christmas.
Howdy Christmas.
Howdy Christmas.
Howdy Christmas.
Around the time that we wrote Champion and Working Out with Nicolle Galyon, Jared and I had begun our casting process. So he and I spoke to his partner at Audio Up, Dennis Quaid. Dennis played a huge part in getting Billy Bob Thornton on board, which in turn helped us get Miranda Lambert to join the cast, as they're big fans of each other. Production, it's like putting together a puzzle and can prove to be tricky. Dennis, though, he helps immensely. Here's a quick conversation with Dennis himself, my podfather, as I like to call him, that explains how production started before COVID-19 and ended in the middle of it. We were working in a world where we did not have the luxury of being in a room together, so we had to do this just over Zoom technology.
Well, it's it's so kind of hard for me to remember when I first heard about Make It Up As We Go. You and I met through Jared, and I remember being at Viper Room that night when you sang, and I think that's when we were talking about it.
Right. Yeah.
And it was kind of like a Make It Up As We Go moment. In fact, we were kind of sitting on the curb, all three of us, and you were having one of those moments like when you call your dad for.
Right. What am I doing with my life? Yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah, you and Jared yanked me out of the Viper Room, and y'all sat me down on that curb and had a real pep talk with me.
Yeah.
Get that.
Which we all need every once in a while. We all need pep talks.
The parking lot of the Viper Room was a moment I'll never forget.
But anyway, we had just set up Audio Up, and we were in Pandemicville, I think, at that time, right? And so we didn't have a place. We couldn't get an office because nobody was leasing offices or whatever. So we came over, we made my house the office and recording studio and everything for a couple of weeks.
It was still it was a startup company. And so, but now from where you guys started from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, Audio Up as my production partner on this project. It's so weird to ever think of y'all as a startup. And it was almost 12 months ago. And when we were at your house, it was the idea of this project was I wanted it to be a set where we mic the rooms, we mic talent, and that way you can feel and hear every part of the room. And, it was just a set.
Footsteps and all the ambient sound that goes with that.
Which you were gracious enough to let us do at your house. But I mean, what was it like having a production in your house?
It didn't work out so well, actually, because you had to bring in refrigerators and stuff, people's eating habits.
Dogs snoring.
Yeah, the dogs, the kids, and everything else. It was like 25 people in this room. So it was a good prompter for everybody, for us to get the new audio chateau that we got. But that was really great being here in this room. We were all shoulder to shoulder in here on the couches and, reading it live and basically doing it live.
Right. Which was also before we were, just to be, clear, it was before we knew how that, it was before the shutdown or anything like that. So we were still being, safe.
Oh, that was before the shutdown.
Before the shutdown.
Oh, that's right. It was before the shutdown, but we hadn't launched Audio Up yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that senior moment that corrected. So
no, we've been safe.
Blur. This whole year has been a blur. But that was fun being in here and
Dwight Yoakam by, and there was a whole musical element on our set, which I can't wait for this to go into TV development, because all of our talent, yourself included, are all incredible musicians. So when we would stop and take a break, somebody would pick up a guitar and start playing something, and then another actor like Rob Mays would pick up a guitar, and there would just be this impromptu jam session between.
Well, I got enough of them in here,
Yeah, I know. And we definitely used your guitars.
Yeah.
And but it was just just the vibe. I'm so glad we were able to have that experience before the shutdown. But,
well, I tell you what's really been great for me is watching you grow into this and watching this coming out of you. And you really are in a way, you're playing a character, but you really are playing yourself in a way. And you did such a great job on it, with totally believable character. And it was like watching, metamorphosis go on, coming out of the butterfly coming out from the caterpillar. It really was, just watch you grow as an artist and really grow into this thing. And I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of what we did for Audio Up as a whole. This is our first real scripted thing as a company to come out. And the people that we, just made my jaw drop, the people that we were able to get involved in this thing and everything.
Right.
Billy Bob, Miranda, Bobby Bones.
Who you're friends, I know you're friends with, and I had met him with you prior, which I don't know if he had remembered that or not.
Yeah.
But, what was that phone call like whenever you called Billy Bob and said, hey, he doesn't need a podcast. He doesn't need to do that. So
yeah, no.
Why do you?
I know what that is too, when like, people call you to do a podcast, like,
yeah.
But
I have to go clean
Billy Bob was really great about it because he was really interested in it for what we were doing. It's once people realize what Audio Up is doing and how it's so music focused, and at the same time, it's like the old idea of a radio play coming around. It's the movie for your ears.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think everybody picked up on the idea of it. And Billy Bob also wanted his script, which we're going to do on Floyd, on the Spelunker.
Really? Oh, you guys, that's great.
Yeah, do scripts in the drawer that we're going to do.
Well, I got to tell you, I can't tell you how intimidated I was sitting there with you and Billy Bob on Zoom, having gone from like 2 years ago, I was like a crunch dancer in a KFC commercial to working with you and Billy Bob. Mm-hmm. Giving you guys any direction. I felt like I was completely out of my element. But
he was so great. He was really open to it, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
About it. It just, he just turns into, he's such a great guy. And I think we were doing that when it was COVID.
Right.
Right. So it made it a lot easier for him to be at home.
Right. Just dropped a mic. I think somebody dropped a mic off to his house.
Yeah.
And but it was, it's amazing how we, I thought, oh my gosh, we're going to shut down production. We'll just have to stop. And, with the way that Jared is, as there's no should in his vocabulary. And it's just, we're going to figure it out. We're going to keep moving forward. And so next thing we know, we're dropping microphones all over the country for this project and shipping them around and, with the hand sanitizer and everything. So I'm just, I couldn't be more proud and grateful to like the cast and you for just like rolling with the punches that came with production. I mean, I feel like our session went pretty smoothly when we recorded our lines and everything. But yeah, it's so wild seeing everyone that's involved. But have you ever met Miranda before?
I have met her backstage, just briefly, when I was with Tanya.
Oh, right.
A couple of those awards, glitter shows. Yeah, she seems really nice, but must have been really something for you. What was that first session like for you?
When I first found out that she was going to do this, I was actually at your house, and Peaches, your dog, was chewing on a water bottle underneath the trampoline, and Jared, it was like, Miranda's in, she's going to do it, and she's going to do the song. And I think I just like burst into tears under your trampoline because I was getting the water bottle from Peaches.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reality of what
part of the story. She's going to be glad about that.
With your dog under the trampoline whenever I found out. And it was like, I mean, it was just, I don't know. I got so emotional over it.
Yeah. And how did you feel like on the first sessions with all that?
I mean, hearing it was so fitting. And I knew she was perfect for this. And I knew if she just gave us a chance, and if she just knew the story, and which she knows that story. She's lived that story.
She does. That's her. Yeah. She saw herself in you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think there was so much hope there, and I had her in mind from day one when Nicolle and I were writing Champion. And so, yes, it was overwhelming and incredibly exciting, but it just felt so right, you know? So I had cried my happy tears, and then we went back into the room that you're in now, and we just got back to work and started.
Yeah, it's very important to get to a place where you feel like you belong. You belong to be, you deserve to be there. You know what I mean?
Right.
I go through that, my, whatever, like first days of any movie that I'm on, I go on and go, I don't deserve to be here. So it takes a while to get over that and just kind of get gelled and, figure out that, people are people and because I think it's really important to enjoy the ride.
Which
and it's been so great to watch you enjoy this ride.
Thank you. Which production, aside from Make It Up As We Go, did you feel that?
Oh, I feel that every time I would start my first day.
That kind of imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Imposter that, it's like, I remember as a kid, it's like I did a movie, I played Barbara, but Gene Hackman was my dad, and Barbara Streisand was playing my lover, and I was like I was his son, I was Gene's son. That was really intimidating, but they just turned out to be great people.
Right, they're you have them up on these pedestals because you respect their work, and then getting to work with even like I feel like working with you and Billy Bob and the rest of our cast, like it's just been the best acting class of my life. I mean, seeing how everyone, like you've taught me a lot, working through the scenes, and you had this great analogy of like, it's almost like you have to keep the ball up in the air. Like you're tossing a ball around and you can't let it drop. Like you've got to keep the energy up. And that was like, once you explain, when you were talking about that in a scene, it just clicked. Like, and I feel like,
I don't remember saying that, but it sounds right. That sounds right.
You had a moment. But no, I felt that way because you and I had met on the set of your show Vegas, and I was an extra, and I was doing like a cigarette tray because it was a period piece. So it was what, 40s, 50s, 50s.
That was supposed to be I think that was 1961 or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 61.
With my history.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
Anything before the 80s.
Yeah, but it's funny how things come around, and you're able to put all your acting experience and all your music experience and put them together. And that's all that wondering why you were doing that back then. It's finally making sense to you, I guess, right?
I think so. I was so I never told you this, but when we were on your set, my goddaughter at the time, I mean, she was at the time maybe like in second grade, and they were doing this school project where they send this like paper cutout character to a relative that's far away, and it's called Flat.
Oh, Where's Waldo?
Or it's like Flat Stanley.
Flat Stanley, yeah.
Yeah. That's, so I had, and they put her photo on it. So I had Flat Stanley, and I was on your set, and I was so tempted to ask you to take a picture with Flat Stanley.
You should have.
I didn't know. I was trying to be cool.
I've done that for all of my kids. I'm a sucker for Flat Stanley.
Yeah, well, I took a photo with Flat Stanley outside like one of the trailers on set. Anyway, but yeah, working with you and Billy Bob, I definitely had that imposter moment where I was like, something's wrong. Like they think I'm somebody else, but I just can't thank you enough for being a part of this. And
well, I really was so glad to be a part of it, and just really looking forward to see where it goes from here, which is going to be exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's only up from here, and we wouldn't have had the success that we've had without people such as yourself and Billy Bob and Miranda, and I can't thank you enough for working with me and taking a chance on me.
Thank you, Scarlett, and you did such a great job, and we all have something to be proud of, I believe.
I agree. Well, thanks for doing this. And
You bet.
yeah, and I will talk to you soon. A huge piece of this project is the Bobby Bones, who is one of the best known media personalities and producers in the music world. It has had #1 best-selling books. But Bobby was kind enough to sit down with us and talk about why he got involved in this project and how this story resonated with him. Oh, hey, Bobby.
Hi, Scarlett. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So it's good to see you again after like wrapping the show and everything. And I just can't thank you enough for being a part of it. But I guess my first question for you, as a nobody in Nashville, before this project developed, like what brought you into this, and what made you? I mean, I know what happened behind the scenes, but what in your gut made you want to do this project, or how did this happen? Why are we here?
Well, I felt like it was just, as much as it was a fictional story, it really wasn't. I mean, it was a fictional story that we told, but it was really the story of so many people, so many strong women, singer-songwriter, artists, and kind of the saga that they go through. And, for me, I've tried to champion that as much as I can on the radio and touring. And so I felt like this was another avenue, because not only was it super entertaining, and, we were doing something that not a lot of folks had even tried, especially with the music part of it and releasing music, but, I just felt like that it was really good. And so all that together for me, it was kind of a no-brainer to not only be on it and use my voice a little bit, like because I'm on the podcast, but also to promote it and, to be a part of it. So I'm very proud of it. You did such a great job. How do you feel now that, the season is over and a lot of people have consumed it, and what is your feeling?
I'm not going to let you turn this around, Bobby. I know this is what you do. But I guess I'll quickly answer it. I just, I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of what we've created, and every person involved is just so incredibly talented in their own way. And I knew we had something great whenever I read the script. And I think just the way that David Hudgens writes, I think it spoke to a lot of our talent involved, including Miranda, because he had that, he wrote Friday Night Lights, and that tells the story of Friday Night Football. And I think he kind of likes to tell stories that aren't so commercial, like the songwriter behind the hit song, or the Friday Night Football game, not the NFL football player, So I think I'm just so proud of it and ready for season 2.
Well, let me ask you one other thing. Was there anybody that you worked with that you were like, wow, this is really cool, I get to actually work with this person?
It's not like there's a blank there. There's several people that I'm thinking of, including yourself. Obviously Miranda. I mean, it's just so full circle, because I was learning her songs on, guitar whenever and then we put that into one of the lyrics about how your songs kind of keep you company if you're in a new place or if you're by yourself. And so she, in her own way, her music kept me company whenever I was in a new city. So for her to cut that song when that's what that song's about just blew me away. But do you think that there's this year in country radio, country music, who do you feel are some standout female acts? Because I know you're such a force behind those voices, and who's a standout country artist this year aside from me? Aside from you,
you always have, and I'll just talk about, the strong women. Trust me, guys are getting enough accolades. Obviously Miranda and Carrie, right? They are just dominating year after year. But when you look at someone who's climbing up there with them is Maren Morris, and quickly, a quick ascent up. And then you get down into, the newcomers who are starting to, make that first splash, and maybe they don't have big radio hits yet, but Maren put out a whole EP before she had a hit on the radio. And so you can see some folks doing that now. Cassie Ashton is somebody who I've known for a few years, and I'm just like, man, she is one song away from not just having a hit, but from being a superstar because she's such an artist. You talk about new artists too. There's an Australian girl named Nikita Carmen who is she's just so different. Like she's not in your face. She's not a big loud singer. But there's a real preciousness to her tone, to how she writes. And I think, to really make it, you got to be different. I think that just whenever you look at the landscape of what's happened in a weird year, a lot of friends too have put out music in 2020, and it's just like, well, it kind of existed, but we were so focused on the news and so focused on, being locked in our houses, and rightfully so.
Right.
That a lot of stuff got glossed over. So it's a weird year to have to look back and judge, but some people really performed fantastically. And Marin, Carrie, Miranda, Cassie, Nikita, they're who come to mind right now.
Right. Yeah. I feel like there was that, what we missed this year was, if you're a newer up and coming artist, you missed that opportunity to connect with your audience or a new audience. And I can't remember who I was having this conversation with the other day, but it was about how this project in a way created a connection between the music and the listener, and like a new audience in a way. So even though we didn't have a live performance aspect of it, we kind of created this different way of reaching a listener. But
the story of Scarlett, and Make It Up, and I look at the parallels with other artists, and she's a lot more as a songwriter now, but I just see like a Caitlin Smith who comes to my mind, who is such a great songwriter but has such a distinct voice as well. And just talking about the records we're talking about, she put out a fantastic record in 2020, and I believe it came out in March or April. But again, that was right when our world was changing, and then she put out a bonus, the deluxe version with, I put Old Dominion on it. It's fantastic. But, I think they've done wonderfully. I think that there are a lot of artists, and I hope people will recommend the podcast to their friends too. I think word of mouth is such an important part of the growth of any creative endeavor. Sure, I can talk about it on my show, and but when your friend recommends something to you, you check it out. It's like on Netflix, if somebody was like, hey, you got to check out The Queen's Gambit, which they did, I wouldn't have checked it out unless it was somebody I trusted.
Right.
So hopefully people that are listening to us talk will actually recommend this to one of their friends.
Yeah, I was a little nervous of how Nashville and the country radio or country music scene would accept this project and what the response would be. And so I feel like we've just had such an incredible response, and everybody's ready for season 2 and wanting to know what happens to, well, I won't say anything in case anybody watching hasn't listened to the last episode. But that said, do you feel like, do you see more artists wanting to use podcasting as a way of releasing new music after something like COVID has happened?
I think that it takes something to be a success to make everybody go, oh, I'd also like that success, right? And I think with, Miranda putting out such a great song, I think with the podcast doing so well, I think people would be crazy not to look at these non-traditional ways to promote themselves or their music. They would be crazy not to. But again, it takes someone with a little bit of foresight to identify that this could be a tool that would be effective for them. And I credit Miranda, I credit yourself to seeing that it's actually worth the time. I've got a whole podcast network. I've got 11 podcasts on my network of all these different shows. And I see the power of podcasts. And I see that just because it's not on, a radio station, some of the podcasts that are on my network are as big as radio stations just for the podcast.
Right.
And so there are numbers, and all we're competing for now are people's eyes and ears, and however you get them is getting them. So I hope so. But what's going to happen is this podcast is a success. There'll be some more, but then everybody's going to want to do it. And then you're going to have everybody releasing music with podcasts, and it's just going to be, but so I would hope that they get in on it while it's still, a pretty new thing.
Well, hopefully those artists will come our way and be a part of season 2. So tell me about the impact of Miranda on country. Is this your first time working with her as a producer, or what's your backstory?
As a producer, yeah, absolutely. I mean, her impact on country is, first of all, she's as big a superstar as country music has. That being said, she's been able to do the thing of, she went a few years without a big hit, but was still able to have massive success because single hits, that's not all that matters.
Right.
She did a double record that was so good and such a piece of art that it didn't really have a radio song on it, but it wasn't really supposed to.
Right.
And, and everyone's like, man, it's been 5 years since Miranda's had a hit. I'm like, yeah, but no one has put out a record like that or with that success. So, Miranda's always being the yang to a lot of folks' yin. When they zig, she zags. And she's continued to do that and being able to maintain the mega force that she is. So just to work with Miranda, and I know her a bit as well, and she's just fantastic. And, as I would say, even nicer away from a microphone or a guitar as she is on. She's just a really good person, and I think that's what I'm mostly a fan of.
Absolutely. I mean, her career is it's really been something to follow it. And I kind of feel like, she related to the story of Charlotte Sales leaving Texas. But okay, all that said, I have one last question for you.
All right.
As we're, having the conversations of developing it into a TV series, who do you see playing Bobby Bones?
Well, hopefully not me. I have too many jobs.
You'd have to audition.
I have too many jobs. Here's the thing. It would be amazing. However, if I have to go and audition and try to get the job, that means my other shows aren't working and they failed.
The character's name is going to be Bobby Bones, so you'll just be auditioning. We'll see how well you can act as yourself.
I would maybe like who's the guy from Gossip Girl? Adam Brody? Is that his name?
Oh yeah, I could see that.
But put some glasses on him. He's better looking than I am. We always want someone, to play a better looking version of you. So I would definitely try to take it up a notch. So, I think, or the guy that plays Dexter is a little older than me, but he kind of has the same look that I do.
Yeah, you guys do. I didn't think about that before. We all do have like similar features.
So one of those two guys would probably, if not those two, Denzel.
Perfect. I'm sure Jared is noting all of this for our cast wish list. But
he'll be an easy one to get. He's always wanted to play me, so he's probably just waiting for that call.
Oh, by the phone. Yeah. Maybe we should just go ahead and make that call now. We'll do it on your show.
Give me a number. I'll call him. Well, listen, let me say to you, congratulations. You just did such a fantastic job. I know that anytime you approach something new artistically, there's always risk, there's always nerves, and there's always that moment when it goes out to folks. It's happened with me with books and radio shows and even new comedy material, but you're always like, okay, now's the time where I'm going to see if people like it or not. I'm just out there. And you had to do that in such a big way, and you just did such a great job. And I hope you're proud of yourself for all the passion and work and also talent that you put into this.
Thanks, Bobby. I appreciate that a lot. That means the world coming from you. And I know we wouldn't have had the success we've had with this project if you hadn't been involved, and you were there from the get-go. And I just can't thank you enough for being a part of this and taking time to, talk about the project today and before we dive into, the holiday break and whatnot. But thank you so much for talking with me today.
Good to talk to you. Always good to see you. And, Jared and Nicolle Galyon, Miranda, I could keep going. Like you said, there's so many people. Just A+ to you guys.
Yeah, thanks.
It was a thrill to just be able to, watch the masters at work. So thank you for letting me be a part of it. And hopefully I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. So this is really cool. Sony Music is the record label for this project, and they ran a contest for one lucky fan to get into a conversation with me, which is crazy because I've never had fans up until now. I was very excited to share the insights that I had into what it takes to become a songwriter in Nashville, especially as somebody who's experienced it, firsthand this past year. So I'm extremely happy to share this conversation with you all. Hey, Angela, thank you so much for, submitting to the contest. And thank you so much for tuning into the project. We weren't quite sure how, our listeners would respond. So thank you so much for being a fan of the show.
Of course, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I can't believe that I won this contest. I just entered just to hopefully see what happens, and here we are.
Sure. Well, I'm so glad that you did. You said that you're a songwriter yourself. So is that what really intrigued you about the show, or
Yes, I would love to pursue a career in songwriting. I've been songwriting for a few years now, just really getting focused into it. And yes, when I heard about the podcast, I knew I had to listen to it because there probably aren't a lot of podcasts and not a lot of like information about what goes on behind the scenes. So I know that it is a tough industry to get into.
Sure, yeah. What did you feel like you connected to the most with Charlotte about?
I feel like there was a lot of parallels with Charlotte and I, including, the pressure of being the best and just invading Music Row. You know, here I am, a girl and from the West, a songwriter, a singer, just making it in the business. So, yeah, I feel like Charlotte and I do have a lot of similarities with that.
Absolutely. Well, the thing nowadays of everybody being on Zoom, it's like you can be writing from anywhere, and we're all working remotely, so it's kind of, I feel like I know what that feeling is though, because I lived in LA for 13 years. So I had that same kind of nervous approach, even though I come from a country Texas background. I just had the same nervousness of like, oh gosh, here I am coming from the West Coast. Are they going to take me seriously? And, but you just let your music speak for itself. And
I mean, I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I do write from personal experience and, life experience. So I hope, what you've done and what Miranda has done and Carrie Underwood and Maren Morris and all those people that I love and that I look up to as singer-songwriters, I
right.
have to do that. So.
Absolutely. Well, that's what makes good country writing or country music. It's story first,
For sure.
So did you have any questions for me about the storyline, the characters,
Yeah,
thoughts, concerns?
I do. I know that this was a scripted podcast. How did that come about? Like how, were you really thinking about doing the scripted podcast at first? Like how did you finalize the script at the end?
Well, the songs actually came first, and I had written those. There's 6 songs from the soundtrack that were just ones that I had written on my own, even just in my bedroom by myself, or in a session in Nashville, that were, if I may say so myself, decent songs, but not quite country radio. So Jared Goodstadt, who created the podcast and the whole project with me and producer on the album, he said, let's just record your songs, and we'll find a place for him, because he comes from a world of sync music. And so yeah, the songs were recorded first. They were written just over the years, just from my life experiences, and then there was this sort of natural story arc that developed once we had the 6 songs on the EP. So then we took the music and basically just played it for our writer, David Hudgens, and his son, Brooks Hudgens, and they wrote based off the songs. So usually it's the other way around. And so it was fun to do it this way.
Wow, that is so interesting. That is so cool. Oh my God. That's amazing.
I don't know, just, that's the thing with songwriting is, you just like, when you feel the inspiration, you just write, and then sometimes you find a home for them, and it could be next week, it could be 5 years from now, but that's really the story behind the music and the story arc of Make It Up As We Go.
Yeah. So did you have these songs, stashed away for years, months? Just
Yeah, like Breathe. Tyler, Rich, and I wrote that with Jared Goodstat like 2 years ago, and so I wanted to bring it into the soundtrack. So I was always a fan of that one in particular, and we needed a fictional radio hit in the storyline due to licensing fees, and so we decided to just, why pay for a song when we're songwriters and we can just, it's already fictional. So let's just make a fictional radio hit. So Breathe, the song with Tyler Rich that you hear Charlotte and Davis perform in episode 1, Tyler and I wrote that a couple years ago, and I just wanted to find a home for it. And then the other songs were the same thing. The only 2 that were written for the project were Champion, which Miranda sings, and then Working Out, cut by Lindsay L.
Oh my God, that is so cool.
Thanks.
What do you think was the most difficult part about doing this?
Quarantine. Just off the top of my head, we were shipping mics all over the country. Michael Raymond James, who plays Marshall, he lives on the East Coast, so we shipped him a microphone, and we dropped microphones around Los Angeles to talent with like the sanitizing kit and everything. Going through all the, before with acting, and you could, and in music, like I feel like this situation has made us all become so like you have to learn how to use all this technology or else you're gonna fall behind. So there were some growing pains with myself and some of our cast trying to figure out, uploading files to Dropbox. I mean, in incredible actors, but we're not the most tech savvy bunch. But that was the most, that was the most challenging part of it. And off the top of my head.
And I have to say, Marshall is hysterical. Like his sense of humor is hysterical.
He's pretty quick-witted, and a lot of that he did a lot of improvising, and he's such an incredible actor and he like stays in it, and this has honestly been like the best acting class of my life, getting to work with actors such as him. But like they we just had a lot of fun doing this, and it's kind of like there's this element of goofiness that is on top of it, doing our scenes like over Zoom. It's just funny, like, and so kind of it worked out so much better than I thought it would be. But yes, he's definitely he and I think Apollo cracked me up.
Oh my God, yes. What was your favorite part about doing this podcast?
Oh, getting to work with such incredible talent. I mean, getting to work with Miranda and, Billy Bob and Dennis, of course. I mean, that's been so rewarding, but most of all, it's telling the songwriter story. That's been my favorite part, and bringing that story to, a new audience and seeing all the support. I mean, we're gearing up for season 2. So I think we did something right. Yeah.
Oh yes, you did. You did, definitely.
Thank you.
What do you think is the most, you have any advice? How would you handle Music City, like in your opinion? Because I know Nashville is pretty cutthroat. So it's advice for.
It's, it's like, I think it feels cutthroat because of the pressure that we put on ourselves, but really there's so many incredible songwriters here that just want to write. So my advice is to just write with anyone, everyone, whoever, and you're going to have good sessions, bad sessions, great sessions. And you don't know, you won't have those experiences until you start putting one foot in front of the other. And so my advice is to just write with anyone and everyone that you can, that's pursuing the same thing. And you'll see that it's not, the songwriters amongst each other, it doesn't feel as much cutthroat, because it kind of feels like, all right, we're all in this together. Let's write together. Because you need each other. It's not as much like acting where you're on it. You're auditioning. You're going into these auditions. You can do that by yourself with the casting director reading the lines. But with songwriting, there's so much collaboration that needs to take place, and trust in the room. So that's my advice, is to just write with anyone and feel,
Yes,
like you can be vulnerable with them.
Vulnerability is the number one thing, and obviously trust is too, but vulnerability in order to, connect with the lyrics, I think is something that needs
Do
to
you
happen.
do you play guitar or piano or?
I don't play any instruments. I just I feel like I'm wrong with that. But one of my goals is to learn to play guitar.
Uh-huh.
My mom years ago bought me a guitar, and it just sat in the corner of my room for years, and I regret it.
Oh, well,
I definitely
it's there for you. It's there for you. There's, songwriting, there's so many different parts of it where there's somebody in the room that top lines and is the lyricist. And, that's another great thing about collaborating with other writers, is that, where you feel like you might need more work, someone else in the room might have that quality. And so it kind of fits together. And, but I was going to ask melody first, or, what your songwriting process is.
Yeah, I feel like I do melody first, or if I have like an idea about what I want the song to be written about, it's probably just like the chorus, and then I write around that.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I don't have a specific, process. It's just whatever I feel, is right, then I do
Absolutely.
first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true to songwriting.
Did you always want to be a songwriter, or how did that route?
I didn't ever think of it as a career. There's so many things, there's so many parts of the industry that you don't think about when you're 12 with a guitar. You just think, I would think Leanne Rimes, or, somebody that's like on stage performing. And so the thinking of being a songwriter was not something, it really wasn't until like within the last 5 years, I thought, oh, I want to do this professionally. But I've been playing guitar and writing since I was about 12 or 14. And it was really just for fun. And then I started working in like the kind of commercial space and writing songs for commercials. And then it really opened up that door of opportunity, and just the idea of making music for a career. It just seems like, well, that doesn't seem possible, because it's just so fun, and it's fun and it's easy. And but that's when you're doing the right thing.
Right? I mean, or at least you hope you think you're doing the right thing. I know for me, I feel like I am, but then there's like a million voices in my head like, no, Angela, this is a dream. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's just going to be so far fetched. You can't, that you can't reach, and people are telling you that you're crazy. So it's just getting those voices out of my head and just
Yeah.
getting with my gut.
And I feel like that happens with anybody at any point in their career. There's always that kind of that voice in your head that you kind of have to put aside, and that's so normal for anybody at any point in their career. So my advice to you is to just keep writing.
Will do. I will take that. One last question. 40% of the Grammy nominations are women. Yay for
Right.
that. How do you feel about the women in the music industry now? I feel like we are seeing an up climb, which is good.
Oh gosh, I mean, it's about damn time. You know, I'm so proud of like my fellow, you know, female writers and artists, and you know, for everyone just being so just persistent with it, because it could have, you know, they're all those artists, they could have just gotten so fed up with it and tired and feeling defeated, and they could have gave up, and they didn't. You know, they kept going and going and fighting to get their voice heard and fighting to get their song or voice on country radio or any radio really. And so it's just that, you know, I'm really proud of all those women for sticking with it, you know, and women in music. You know, it's like there is a change, and you know, I don't think there's any reason or need to like point fingers at anybody for the way that is. It just has been, that's just been the way it has been. Mm-hmm. So I'm just so proud of, you know, these women for just, you know, pushing through and getting that nomination. I mean, each of their stories is, I can't even imagine, you know, what they've been through to get to this point in their career. And so that was also part of what the story we wanted to tell for Make It Up As We Go is the voice that's behind country radio, because there's, you know, these guys on country radio singing the words written by these amazing women in Nashville, writing the songs. So, you know, we wanted to share their stories. And so, I mean, it's an incredible number, and I'm just so happy to see that it's changed.
I know, so am I. I feel like, you know, as women, one, we do put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and, you know, two, we put a lot of us out there, you know,
Right.
a lot of ourselves out there. So, you know, for these women to be nominated in this big category or this big award show is just, it's amazing to watch. And I just hope that, you know, we could keep that percentage getting higher.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's a start. And yeah, well, thank you so much for taking time to talk with me and for listening to the project. And it's, you know, again, we didn't know what kind of reaction we'd get. And my dream was to be able to reach another female songwriter, and that has been you. So thank you so much. This means a lot to me. So thank you.
Of course, no, thank you so much for making an impact in my life and for inspiring me. And, you know, I hope inspiring not just me, but many others, I'm sure. And you did such a great job, and congratulations on all the success.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot.
No, you definitely deserve it, for sure.
Thank you. Well, you get those guitar lessons going.
I will.
Well, thank you so much for following me on my journey this year. I promise there is much more to come, including a pretty amazing song, if I may say so myself, that I'm going to share with you at the end of this podcast, called Howdy Christmas. I wrote this with my partner, Jared Goodstadt, and it's performed by myself and country superstar Haley Witters. It's been incredible getting to work with all these talented and inspiring women, Lindsay L., Randall Lambert, Nicolle Galyon, and I cannot thank them enough. And I want to give a special shout out on that note and express support for this special, very special organization for any female artists or any female in the music business. She is the Music is a nonprofit organization working in music to bring visibility and opportunities to women in the industry. Their 3 pillars include all-female writing camps, the largest global database of women in music and mentorship opportunities. Visit sheisthemusic.org to learn more. Thanks to our sponsor, Unilever, who helped make this project possible. Check out all the music from Make It Up As We Go. And now, here's Howdy Christmas.
The tree is dressed with Christmas souvenirs. Let's not let the magic disappear. And if the Christmas lights never shine this bright, I'll always be merry as long as I got my best boots and bells on, headed home where I belong. That Tennessee tinsel on my Christmas tree, a little eggnog in my whiskey, darling, that's all I'll need to get me singing howdy, howdy Christmas to you. We'll two-step round that Christmas tree. I'll hold on to you, I'll even let you leave. Made my list, there's only one thing I need. And he's a spinning and a dipping me and stepping on my feet. Got my best boots and bells on, headed home where I belong. That Tennessee tinsel on my Christmas tree, a little